Alrighty, well, thanks everybody for tuning into this episode of Greater Than 0%. Today we have Lynn Margherio, who's the founder and CEO of Crayons, which listeners might recognize because we were able to interview their Chicago-based location. But Lynn is overseeing everything. So we're really excited to talk to Lynn and dive even deeper into just the broader impact that Crayons is having. So Lynn, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Joseph, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right. So per usual, we like to start with a mission statement. So Cradles to Crayons, what is a mission?
Our mission is to end clothing insecurity for children.
Yep. Period. Done. Why is this something that you've taken up, and you're the leader of this organization? Absolutely.
Joseph, my inspiration for Cradles to Crayons came when I was home visiting my family many years ago in Michigan. My sister had recently had a baby. My brother had two young kids, and I didn't have any kids of my own at the time. And I remember being in their homes and just being struck by how much stuff they had for their kids and how their homes were overrun, it seemed, with all of the things, the strollers, the car seats, the clothes and all of the diapers. And I was helping my niece get dressed and looking through her drawers, and I found clothes that had still had tags on them, but she'd clearly outgrown them. And that sort of put a little kernel in my head that there's something here that seems like an opportunity. I didn't know what it was. And then when I was at friends' homes here in Massachusetts, I was seeing something similar. And I thought, kids grow really fast. All the things I'm seeing here now in your homes, they're not going to need in 3 months' time or in 6 months' time. So what are they going to do with it? And I thought, well, there might be a way to harness these resources here that are stuck in people's homes and get them to a place where they can really be used. And so that was my aha moment. And I set about trying to figure out whether that idea of connecting resources that are widely available in our communities to families who are struggling to make ends meet. That became now 22 years of
Wow.
work for me at Cradles to Crayons.
Well, we're in that same boat. My wife and I have two daughters, a 1.5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old, and so I mean, recently been experiencing that, and are currently experiencing that. And our solution has been to, just drop off the excess of things we have at Goodwill. But and I'm familiar with the organization. There are some barriers to people even getting items from Goodwill, and they're a good organization themselves, and they have their own model. But Cradles Crayon has a different model that I'm excited to share with this audience here, and we'll get into it. So Lynn, 20 plus years, what were some of the initial activities that Cradles Crayons did in those first, couple months or even couple years? Yeah.
In the early days, it was a lot of learning and figuring things out. What was going to stick and what made no sense. And so I spent a lot of time renting trucks and going out and collecting items. I would cold call schools and faith-based organizations to see if they would conduct drives for us. And I was looking for volunteers to help out. And there were just a lot of moving parts and pieces in those early days. I was also asking friends and family for every favor they would give to me. And it felt in those first few months, it felt many times like, oh, I'm just not sure if this is going to go anywhere. And then one day I walked into the first warehouse that I had rented, and I saw people volunteering who had no connection to me whatsoever. These were not friends, and these were not colleagues, and these were not people I had, personally called and asked them for help. These were people who just wanted to help out, and they found
Yeah.
us. And that for me was um, just really a turning point to say, I didn't know how I was going to get the word out about the need kids have for everyday essentials. I didn't know how I was going to sort and process all of the donations that were starting to come in the door. And a light bulb went off, and it just was like, it's the people here, it's my neighbors, and it's kids, it's adults, it's corporate groups who are looking for ways to get connected in their community to give back.
Yeah. Wow. And then, was there a point where it just took off and you're playing catch up ever since? Because you guys have multiple locations all over, and I'd love to hear the growth over the past 2 decades, and what you think has sparked it and caused it, and how you've been trying to keep up with the demand and just
So
the need.
Joseph, in the first year, we supplied about 2,000 packages to kids and families in the greater Boston area. Um, Fast
Hmm.
forward to what we are projecting to do this coming year, we plan to provide 1 million packages to kids and families across the Commonwealth, across Chicagoland, Greater Philadelphia, New York, and San Francisco. And that has been made
Well,
possible because we have so many partners who are conducting product collection drives for us. We've got a number of organizations and individuals who continue to come back and show up and volunteer. And we have several hundred school partners, social service partners, community health agencies that are partnering with state and local agencies, and they're the ones on the front lines identifying the children and families who need the clothing and other resources that we have to offer.
wow. So, for people that this is the first time hearing about Cradle's Crayons, what is in a package, and what's the process? So you collect donations, explain the types of donations, and then explain what you package.
Our process first is acquiring the product. We source it, and we do that in a number of different ways. We'll ask organizations to hold a collection drive for us. And that could be a third grade classroom that puts up flyers. And, over the course of a week, they will ask families to bring in clothing that's in beautiful condition, and or winter coats to the school, and then they drop it off at our Giving Factory location in Boston and Philadelphia or Chicago. We also have bins that we place in YMCA locations, in retail parking lots, at our Giving Factory locations, where people can drop off when it's convenient for them. And we have people bring donations to us when they are coming in to volunteer. We also buy quite a lot of product, Joseph. We, in addition to supplying
Hmm.
clothing, shoes, winter coats, we buy and distribute diapers, which of course have to be new, socks and underwear, which have to be new, and backpacks and school supplies. So we're getting our product from a variety of different places. Some of it is recycled, much of it is also new. And then the,
Yeah.
the product
Wow.
comes in the. Do you
2,000
want
to
me to
1
do
million.
a quick blurb on how it happens, and then I can go.
Yeah. Talk about it, and
So, Joseph, our supply chain starts with product
perfect.
collection drives. We source product from a variety of different places. It then comes over our giving factory warehouse where we have volunteers who sort, inspect, and package that product into kits. And then we distribute through a network of social service agency partners, which could be community health centers, multi-service agencies. They could be schools. They could be state and local agencies who are on the front lines, and they order on behalf of the kids they see who need a new coach or who need
Yep.
a pair of sneakers because they're not able to participate in gym.
Yeah. Wow. Um, it sounds like a very complex network, right? Because and it's great that you're connected with those community partners because they're, like you said, they're on the ground and they see the demand and they see the need and could aggregate that and just connect with you on what to distribute. Wow. I'd love to, and you've already shared some data. 2,000 packages to 1 million packages is the estimate this year. Do you have examples of people's feedback, whether it's volunteers or the kiddos that you've been providing for? Obviously, it's kind of hard to get feedback from a kiddo, right? It's just probably more so the community organizations that you're supporting. But I'd love to
So
hear some of
we
the stories
survey
of impact as well as the
our
data that you've already shared.
partner organizations, and we also survey our volunteers. So we have data from both sides
Yep.
of it. I'll start first with our agency partners, where 90% of them say that we are the only resource where they can find clothing and other items for children at no cost. And we, from those agency partners, we also
Wow.
collect stories of sunshine, as we call it, which, really for us, ground us in why we're doing our work and the importance of maintaining such a high quality standard for the items that reach the children who are benefiting from Cradles to Crayons. And so, just today, I was hearing from a partner, and this was a town outside of Boston where they have a social services department in this town. And back in the pandemic, they started a diaper bank because there was such demand for diapers. And they didn't know, however, where the diapers were going to come from. Um, they were just a small group of, a small staff. And so they reached out
Yeah.
to Cradles to Crayons, and we came up with a process where, monthly we provide them with a delivery of diapers and clothing that they request. And they provide to their residents when they come to a food pantry. They come and they are able to give to them diapers and also clothes. And that makes a huge difference, both for families who are struggling and who are living
Yeah.
in poverty, but then also families who are facing, they're relocating and, maybe they have just a temporary economic challenge and they need to, complete forms to get additional government resources. But, completing those forms takes some time. And so having the clothing and supplies from Cradles to Crayons enables them to bridge that temporary gap before they can be back on their feet. We'll also supply families who've lost things from a house fire. And, you can only imagine what that's like, where you've lost all of your possessions, including the clothes for your kids. And so being able to have something where, a resource where your child is getting a week's worth of matched outfits so that she can go to school, without missing a beat and having what she needs is a big relief for both the child and the parents and caregivers. So
Yeah.
we hear stories like that all the time from our partners and from our volunteers. We are always asking for
Yeah.
feedback. What did you like about this experience? Would you recommend this volunteer experience to others? And, we hear from our volunteers that they really appreciate that we have, um, we are a place where they can bring their young children. Families can bring their 5-year-old son and their 7-year-old daughter to come and, and really learn about the value of service and giving back. We hear from corporate groups that, they're looking to be together with maybe a team of 25 or 50 colleagues, and they can do that at Cradles to Crayons. So we hear specific feedback about what they most appreciate about the experience, and then also we ask, would you recommend this experience to others? And consistently, we're hearing that 90+% of them would. And that has been just what fuels our volunteer stream day after day, because we need those volunteers in to help us process and sort all the donations that we're getting out the door.
I should have asked this initially, but the sad reality of the reason why, one of the reasons why your organization was founded is that there are children in the US, in the cities that you serve, that don't have access to these essential items. Are there any metrics that anyone has gathered of like how many kiddos fall into that from birth to age 12 that don't have that access? And is it hopefully changing for the positive over time, or what have you seen in your position?
Joseph, we estimate there are 20 million children across the US who are struggling with clothing insecurity.
Mm.
And clothing insecurity is a lack of access to affordable, adequate, and appropriate clothes. Here in Boston, where I'm based, it's 1 out of 2 kids. Um, Across well, here in Boston, it's one out of
Yeah.
two kids.
Has that been improving over time, or is it getting worse? And either way, what are the reasons?
It has not been improving.
Mm.
We have seen that because of inflation and the
Yeah.
high cost of living, particularly in cities where we have our Giving Factory locations, it's just really expensive. You've got housing costs that are through the roof.
Yeah.
We've seen food inflation, and just the reality is that wages are not keeping up with the costs of these other basic needs. And so clothing tends to be the hidden need that
Yeah.
people are not talking about, yet it is very real. And so the very same people who are facing food insecurity or housing insecurity, if they have kids, they are also likely facing clothing insecurity. We did see a, um, a ray of hope when during the pandemic, when we had the expanded child tax credit, the
Mm.
expanded child credit, excuse me. We did
Mm.
see a ray of hope during the pandemic when we had the year of the expanded child tax credit. We saw that when families had more disposable income provided on a monthly basis, that they were able to cover their basic needs of
Mm.
food and clothing and school supplies, and it cut the rate of child poverty in half.
Wow.
Unfortunately, when that program, expired, we saw child poverty go right back to where it had been prior to that program. So we know from a policy level, we know what we need to do to um, uh, make a difference for kids and families. It's just a matter of enacting, getting that policy back in place in the coming years.
Well, um, So, future looking, and starting with that policy example, what are your hopes for Cradles to Crayon? So, looking to 5, 10, another 20 years from now, what does the organization look like? What are the activities that you're participating in, and what is the change you're hoping to impact?
So Joseph, we started our conversation with our mission, which is to end clothing insecurity for children. And for us, that means increasing access to affordable, appropriate, and adequate clothing for children across the United States. We're looking to tackle it at a few different levels. First is by raising awareness of clothing insecurity as a basic need where people understand that it's out there, they recognize it, because once they recognize it, then they're empowered to do something about it. Uh, so we've got raising awareness. Then there's the education process. What do you do then? Once you know that there is clothing insecurity in your community, what can you do? At a policy level, it's by providing supports directly to families to ensure that they can cover their basic needs for things like diapers and clothing, which are not currently covered under any government programs. It's about educating the community about donating their, children's clothing and looking at it and saying, if this is something that is in beautiful, like new condition, donate it to an organization like Needles to Crayons. If it's not in good condition, recycle it. And then it's by increasing the number of packages that we are able to directly provide out into the community. And we're doing that through our 3 Giving Factory locations in Boston, Philadelphia, and Chicago. And we are also doing that through a digital platform that we launched a couple of years ago called Giving Factory Direct, where you can donate to us no matter where you live in the country. Just go online, tell us I've got boys sized 10 clothes to donate, and we will match you to a child who wears boys size 10 clothes. Hit the shipping
Yeah.
label, you put it in a box, and off it goes to benefit
Well,
a child who wears and who needs the items that you have to donate. So it's those
yeah.
3 strands, 3 strategies: raising awareness, educating, and then distributing more packages to kids across the U.S.
Yeah. Wow. In the educating category, government programs adding certain items to the programs. Are you talking about having diapers as a part of SNAP or clothing as a part of SNAP, or like it's educate me on that?
It's a great question. Uh, right now, we are advocating for something called the End Diaper Need Act, which is its own separate piece of legislation aimed at providing supports to diaper banks to be able to expand the services that they are providing in local communities across the United States. It's also recognizing and allowing individuals to use their health savings accounts to be able to purchase diapers. So it's looking at it on both levels. What can we do to give more financial support to agencies that are providing the supports and empowering
Right.
the parents and caregivers to use other resources to be able to access diapers.
All right. Um, okay, so we've covered a lot. Thank you for sharing the history, the current state, and the future plans. I think I asked all the questions that I want. We covered some examples of stories, the data, the impact. Is there anything that maybe we didn't cover or you want to share with us before we wrap up this episode here?
Joseph, clothing insecurity is probably while it is the hidden basic need, it is also one that uh, is something we can solve together. There,
Mm-hmm.
is an abundance of clothing out in the world, and it's going into landfill because people don't necessarily know about clothing insecurity. And if we could increase the amount that is being donated to organizations that are focused on ending clothing insecurity, and we can take those, that clothing stream and put it to really good use, and ensure that kids are going to school with their heads held high because they're wearing clothing that fits them, that they feel good to wear. And we're removing the stressors that their parents and caregivers are feeling every day because they don't know where else they're going to get the clothing for their kids.
Well, great. So engagement, people that are listening and want to get involved with you, where could they go? What type of engagement do you look for? And then we'll wrap it up.
The easiest place to learn about how to engage with Cradles to Crayons is our website, cradlestocrayons.org. If you live in Boston, Philadelphia, or Chicago, come and volunteer with us. Send us a financial donation, hold a collection drive with your friends, with your schools, with your sports teams, or your company. If you don't live in one of the three cities I mentioned, donate to us through our Giving Factory Direct platform, and make a difference for a child in New York or San Francisco. And we hope soon in many other cities across the US.
Oh. Well, Lynn, thank you so much for sharing your story. All of the links that you shared will be in the show notes for the social media accounts and for your website for people that are listening. So folks that are listening, get engaged, do all the actions and call to actions that Lynn just shared. I know I'm going to myself in our local neighborhood. Lynn, thanks again so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And I'm honored and we're honored to share the work that you all are doing at Cradles to Crayons.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much, Joseph.